Dark night. Oh, looks like I got 5 people watching. I'm still getting my stuff together here, everybody. Just give me a minute. Hang on. Okay. Stop that. Grab this. All right, I am back. Well, I technically never really left since I got a microphone on me. I tried to go live at 8, but I decided the last possible second that I was going to go live, like 3 minutes till 8. So I came in here and like got everything set up real quick, slapped the live stream up, went live, and after like 7 minutes of live streaming, I still had 0 viewers, and so I basically shut the live stream down and called it a night. And it wasn't until a few minutes ago, chatting with Zini, that I realized that I slapped it together so quickly that I forgot to set the visibility, and it defaults to private. You got to set it to public if you want it to be a public live stream, and I didn't. So that's why nobody saw it and nobody showed up, was because I posted it privately. So I thought about it for a minute, and I do have one thing I want to do in here tonight, so I figured I'd go live, at least just to do that. I don't know if we're going to have a full, 10 o'clock night tonight, but we are going to do a little bit of work on the new Goldfish tank, which I am absolutely in love with. I have been toying with ideas. Look, you can definitely see where my fan is blowing. I got it blowing right towards the ceiling now. I still haven't really cleaned up from all the work we did the other night. So this tank just looks incredible. I'm really, really happy with it. I did build another one of those little bubblers. You can see a few of the rocks did pop out the top. And I used a wider saw to cut the notch in the side. And as such, the piece of plastic doesn't fit in quite as snugly. And you can see there's some bubbles going out through the gap. But the majority of the air still goes, rises up through the gravel. And we're still getting, plenty of stuff is coming up out of the top of that. And so that's going to help mineralize. And honestly, with this tank, even the rocks you can see that fell down on the bottom, you're looking right at them, and it's hard to even notice them. I could mix in some crushed coral into this substrate without really having any issue at all. I do think I want to, well, I don't know yet. I've been toying around with ideas of scaping this tank, and I've got a few ideas of what I might want to do with it. So for now, it's going to stay looking like this, but at the same time, don't get married to this scape. Well, you can tell which leaves on this one are new leaves, can't you? Well, we can talk about it. I do want a little more circulation in the tank. We're not getting a lot of water flow, so I lowered that. I used to have it sitting high enough up that I was getting more of a waterfall type effect, but now we're getting some directional movement. I did put a power head on here, and the only power heads I could find was a little 40, one of those little square jobs that I usually put in like a 10-gallon tank or a 20-gallon tank. I found one of those, and then I found a 960-gallon per hour power head and a 600-gallon per hour power head. So I tried the 600-gallon per hour, and I put it in there, and it's a non-adjustable one, so it's either on or off. I couldn't adjust the flow. And I turned it on, and like the poor goldfish immediately were like, what the fuck? Like they were getting blown all over the place. So I unplugged that. And then that's when I adjusted the airflow. So I may still buy like a little 200-gallon per hour, a really small one, and put it down here in the corner, or possibly put it down in this corner, just moving the water around. I don't want a lot of flow necessarily, but I do need the water to move through the tank somewhat. So tonight what we are going to be doing is installing this plant. I picked this up today. We were at the Lowe's, and I've been looking for something that would be growing emergent out of this tank. And I was thinking about just grabbing one of our peace lilies, because I got a million peace lilies around the house. Every time they need transplanting, we divide them up, and hey, presto, we got 5 more peace lilies. So I thought about doing that, but I like this one because it's a really narrow leaf design. If you look at my other peace lilies, you can see how it's got a much broader leaf on it. These are actually looking kind of yellowed out. I wonder if they're getting too much light or what. In fact, maybe, well, I don't know. I was going to say maybe we could take that and put it in the goldfish tank and see what it does. Just open up that corner or put something smaller in that corner. That's a possibility. But I did get this for the sake of putting in the goldfish tank. And I think we're going to put it in the middle, or possibly like against the edge, and it's coming out of the pot. It's going to go in there bare root. I'm just leaving it in the pot until I know where I want to put it. Don't think I want to put it on the forward edge, but it's going to be growing emergent, and the only thing that's going to be in the tank is the roots. And really, we're just kind of waiting to see if the goldfish destroy the roots or not. I know they did in the other tank, but the other tank I have the roots kind of protected, so they can only eat so much of them. There's still enough there to keep it alive. And honestly, now that I'm saying that, maybe that's why that looks so pale and yellow. There should be plenty of nutrients in the water for it. It might just not have enough of a root mass on it. I'd pull it out and show you, but I've got it wired and attached to the thing, and so I don't want to have to take all that shit apart just to pull it out and show it to you. So let's think about how we're going to do this. We've got a pretty good idea already. All right, first thing I need to do is let me go knock all of the, well, I can do the soil in here. I'll just bring a bucket in, dear Eliza. Well, I'll just bring, I don't really need to bring all this in. Never mind. I'm just going to do this out here. I have my bin full of potting mix out here. I'm just going to do it in the bin, and that way I won't make a mess. So we were at the Lowe's today. My wife has a coworker whose birthday is tomorrow, and she wanted to pick her up a little potted plant. And so that's what we were doing there. When I saw them, I started looking around at the different plants they had. I started thinking about, instead of using a peace lily like we've got at the house, because we got a zillion of them, why not see if I can find something a little more unique, a little different. It's still a peace lily. They had a lot of cool plants, and I looked at a bunch of them, but I really wasn't sure which ones would do well with, in water. A lot of house plants do well in drier conditions, so putting them in a, watery situation like this might have just killed them. So I didn't want to waste any money buying something that wasn't going to survive. All right. It's still got a lot of dirt on it, but that ain't going to hurt anything when I put it in the tank. It's got a really nice root system on it. So we can get some of that soil off of there. So that's a pretty good looking root system. So I'm just going to do the easy way. In fact, I got something that's way too long, so let me go replace that. All we're going to do is lay one of my garden stakes across the top of it, and then I can attach the plant right to the garden stake and just have the roots down in the water. But I grabbed one of the longer ones. I wasn't sure what size I'd need, so let's measure, and I'll see roughly what size I need, and I can grab something a little closer in length, and then we can just sort of hold it in place with a little piece of tape. Oh, that'll be perfect. And if I can find me a twisty tie over here, I've got about 1,000 of them. That ought to do it. All right. So we're going to do this nice and simple as I like to do things. And just lay this across here. If it was a little shorter, we could lay it down in the channel, but that's not necessary. So take some handy dandy duct tape. This is the same tape that's holding the backing on. Put a piece across here. If I can get my finger off of it. So that'll hold that in place. And just a little bit of twisty tie around this should hold this in place without choking it off. So I don't know if it's going to hang properly or not. Right, let's think about this. I guess I can wedge a little rock or something in there. That should be enough weight to hold it down. See if I can get it to stay in there. No, it still wants to drop. I think one of the problems might be is that I have the whole entire plant on one side of the bar. If we put it so that the plant is sort of over the bar or through the bar, maybe it'll work a little better. Oh, you bastard. That does not want to cooperate. Let's see, plan 2. Or is that plan B? How does that work? That one's probably too short. This one will be too long. I think the size that I need, I got all of them I've used. All right, let's try this. Oh, perfect. I guess maybe I should have put the plant between them before I taped it down. Are you kidding me? Come on. Well, that's not perfect. And the more I think about it, the bigger that grows, the heavier it's going to become on the top, especially if the roots get eaten. So we'll we'll see how long it takes and whether or not the goldfish eat them. All right, let me go dry my hands off and grab my vape from the other room, and I'll be right back and we can chat for a little bit. I got a new flavor today. I'm not crazy about it. It's not bad, but it's not good either. See? And I'm sure you can totally tell by what it looked like. All right, let me get some tablet opened up here so I can see what the hell's going on and answer some comments. All right, there we are. All right, Arknight, Pond Puppies, hello. Vincent, hello. JP Jeffries, hello. Pablo, just thinking about you the other day, wondering how you've been. Holly, hello. As far as the puffer, with my figure 8 puffer, I was firmly in the belief that they were a brackish water fish or a semi-salty water fish. And so I kept mine in brackish water for many years. And eventually it started developing like weird lesions all over its skin. And several viewers recommended reducing the salt, and I figured it can't hurt, let's see what happens. And the more I reduced the salt, the better it got. And eventually I got it all the way down into fresh water, and he healed up great. All the lesions went away, and he was bright and colorful for the rest of his life, which was several more years after that. And so who knows how long he might have lived if I hadn't kept him in the brackish water for so many years continuously. I mean, he was in brackish water for about 6 years or maybe 7 years before I switched him over to fresh. So I'm definitely going to recommend the fresh water. I would recommend a little bit of mineral salts in it. You don't want like really soft water like I've got. But if you put a little bit of mineral salts in there, or if you've got a little bit of hardness to your water or whatever, that should be fine. The salt healing the wound up, I'm not really sure what the wound or the injury is, but a little bit of, if you're just putting aquarium salt in the water, it's not going to hurt. Again, don't know if it's going to help. Depending on the wound, it might need antibiotics or an antifungal or who knows. But again, a little bit of salt in the water certainly isn't going to hurt with a puffer fish. But they're great fish, so I hope you get a good run out of them. So I'll do something more significant with the plant. I really just wanted to kind of get it in there and see what's going on. I do want some emergent plants in this tank. I don't know if we need a lot, but I definitely want something growing out of it. And I'm sick to death of pothos. I literally throw feet of pothos away at this point. I have so much damn pothos in this house. But a peace lily will get pretty substantial and will create some light and shadow, give me some shading in there. And since I kind of already have this dead zone in the middle, it's not real noticeable. I tinkered with it the other night, and we got that dead zone sort of flattened out a little bit. But I don't like that weird triangular shadow. And so if I've got a plant there creating an even larger shadow, but a more natural looking shadow, I'm okay with that. I don't like that weird triangle of darkness you get between the two floodlights. So hopefully that'll fill in, or again, we'll do something with it. But if you look at my other pothos, I had trouble with this one. It's going to be kind of hard. I don't want to turn that light back on the pond. We'll turn the overhead light on. So you can see I have these wires here. Let's turn this light on too. So the wires wrap all around this, and then they go over this piece of wood, and they hook in back here and underneath of it to hold it up there. But the root ball itself, I don't think you'll be able to see under the water very well, but the root ball itself goes down into a 2-inch piece of PVC pipe that's about 4 or 5 inches long. And when this was still small and I put it in there, I put a big rock inside the PVC pipe along with the roots. And I also have the wire tied at the base and then wound all the way up to the top here. So the weight kind of puts it in there, but you can see it still wants to fall over. The only reason it's not is because the bottom of that PVC pipe is leaning against the tank. It's literally hanging. You know, if we cut that little cord right there, it would just fall right into the pond. So that's in there in a different sort of way. And I could do something similar with this if I wanted it up against the back wall, which may very well be where we wind up putting it. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the middle of the tank like that. This is just kind of, you know, my initial foray into seeing what it looks like in the tank. I'm most curious to see how those roots survive, because if the goldfish don't eat those roots, I'm not banking on that, but if the goldfish don't eat those roots, that will make for a really beautiful root system. It'll be gorgeous if we can get that root system to actually just fill out and grow in into this tank. So that's my main goal, is to get some visual interest in the tank in a way that isn't going to be threatening to the goldfish. You know, if they swim into the roots, it's not going to injure them or bother them in any way. It'll give us some visual interest in the tank. And then, of course, the foliage above will give us some lighting choices. As far as peace lilies being toxic, I believe that's somebody said something about being toxic or poisonous or something. Right, cats and dogs. They're not actually toxic. But they have, I think it's called ciliates. It's a physical structure within the plant made out of silica, and essentially it's like teeny, 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 tiny shards of glass. So if your cat or your dog does eat it, that can irritate their mouth, it can irritate their esophagus, and then of course their entire intestinal tract has these little, you know, finely ground glass moving through it. And it can just cause irritation, which then causes diarrhea and that sort of thing. So it's not good for your pets to eat them, but it's not actually poisonous or toxic to them. And they would have to eat an extreme amount of it to do any kind of real significant damage. My cats have never bothered it. We've got, as I said, 1 million pothos plants all around the house. Our cats are indoor-outdoor cats, so if they want to chew on plants or dig or anything, they don't need to resort to my house plants to do that. So perhaps that's why they don't bother them. But I've never had a problem with the cats and the pothos plants. My goldfish, on the other hand, or the peace lilies, you know what? I'll have to back up on everything I just said. I'm thinking of pothos plant. I don't know if what I'm saying is true about peace lilies or not. I'm thinking of the pothos plant having the ciliates in it or whatever they are. I'll look into the peace lilies. Hey, Cecil. Selena, hello. South Carolina, nice. I sent you a message saying I was going to do another one. Hey, Charlie, Robert, Zany. I sent you a message, Zany, saying I was going to just go ahead and do another live. Oh, that's a bummer, Robert. So yeah, I don't know if what I was just saying about the peace lily, I can look it up quick enough on my phone here. My magical computer device in my pocket. Okay, you can go back to what I was saying. It does say they're toxic. It says it's poisonous, which is an interesting choice of words. It says it's poisonous to pets and children, containing insoluble calcium oxalate crystals that cause immediate oral irritation, pain, and swelling of the mouth, tongue, and lips. If ingested, while not typically fatal, they can cause severe discomfort, drooling, vomiting, difficulty swallowing, etc. So, yeah, everything I was just saying does hold true. And to follow up that thought, I got derailed when I realized I was talking about the wrong plant. But now that we're back on track, everything I said holds true with the pothos plant as well. But having said that, I cannot grow. I mean, you can see the pothos plant growing, along the ground here. I've just got mad pothos plant. I just stack it out of the way. I cut a whole pile of pothos plant off the floor there the other day. It grows over this and grows over top of that. You can see the vine that grows down the wall there. But if you look in the tank, all you will see is these little stringy vines. And the only reason you see these stringy vines is because the goldfish eat the shit out of this pothos plant. It used to be really cool looking. I had pothos plant growing through the pond. I mean, they're long pieces. It comes all the way down here. That's the end where it's actually putting new growth out at the moment. And you can see the new growth. Look how chewed up that is. They just eat the crap out of this stuff. So goldfish clearly don't seem to be bothered by the oxalates that are in there. My dragon tree's doing really good too. I looked at them today. They were like 16 or 18 bucks. Well, I'll grant you, they were roughly that tall. I got that for $1 last year. I'm still stoked about that. It's grown a lot since I got it though. It's doing really well, but I paid $1 for that on clearance last year. So yay me. My wife laughed at me today when I pointed to him, and she's like, I know. I just said $1. She's like, I know. All right. Good job, Zini. What is the trick to keep plants in the tank? I'm not sure what you're asking. Oh, happy birthday, Robert. Happy birthday, Cecil. What do you mean tricks for, you're welcome, keeping, do you mean like growing potha or growing, emergent stuff? Or do you mean just like having a planted tank? Because there's no real tricks or secrets to it or anything. I would just need to know exactly what you're asking me about because there's different requirements for those different scenarios. Let's go have a look at the Great Wizard Queequeg Quad for a little bit. I'll get my app turned on. I already fed everybody earlier when I thought I was trying to do my other live stream. And so if I throw a little bit more food in the front there, I'm sure we'll get a good feeding video. I'm going to turn the forward light on. I still have like that bucket of water from when I transferred the goldfish the other night in the way. I have not fully cleaned up yet. I got a lot of it cleaned up, but not all of it. All right, we're going to zoom you guys in once he settles down, but we got to get some food in there. I took one of my old weed containers and I put the blackworm pellets in it because it's big enough that I can actually just reach in the top. The other containers I have are so small I had to like pour the stuff out. Hey, Jay. If you've got a lid with a small opening and you want to keep, um, like, hang on a second, I'll give you an example. I know the camera's really zoomed in, but I think I can probably show you this without me having to. If you look at the top of the 29, you see how it's got that little food hole right there in the front, that square. If you had something like that, that would be perfect. You couldn't use it as a food hole anymore, obviously. But the growing, sticking a plant in that would be easy. Trying to get this camera lined up so it's reasonably level and zoomed in on the fish. She'll settle down onto the food in a minute here. Getting the camera straightened out was killing me. It's still not quite level, but that's all right. You guys can deal with it. So something like that would be really easy. You would just have to, work it through and get the roots on the inside. But here's the things to remember. You need to have the kind of plant that the roots can stay submerged in water. Typically, you want oxygenated water. A lot of plants will do okay as long as their plants are in well oxygenated water. Something like a peace lily, you can grow that bare root just in a vase. Just put some water in it, stick it in, and let the roots grow into the jar. We do that all the time. Peace lilies are super easy to grow like that. Pothos you can grow with just a glass of water, and the roots will grow into it. But a lot of plants will grow well as long as their roots are in oxygenated water. And our fish tanks with air stones and circulation and all that counts as oxygenated water. So just remember to keep the roots in the water with the plant emergent. A lot of plants won't do well, like any leaves that are under the water will die off, like a peace lily. You can try putting a peace lily underwater and it'll grow for a little while, but eventually it will die off. If it's tall enough that like the new growth comes up and out of the water, the new growth will survive, but the submerged stuff will eventually fade away and die off. The difference in the hobby between Amazon swords and Brazilian swords are Amazon swords and all the various varieties. If it's listed as an Amazon sword, that is a fully submersible plant. You can grow that fully underwater. Its cousin is the Brazilian sword, which is just a peace lily. They sell them in the aquarium hobby as Brazilian swords. They can charge you a lot more money, but a Brazilian sword is just a peace lily, and they have to be grown emergent. You cannot grow a Brazilian sword underwater. You can grow it in the water, and again, if it's a shallow enough tank, you can even root it into the substrate, but the foliage has to be up and out of the water in order for it to survive. Oh, let me see. Hang on, I'm trying to expand the view a little bit. Well, I'm going to expand the view all the way, apparently. Let's try to tighten that back up. I was expecting her to just settle down and find all the food that I dropped right there in the center, but I did put a shit ton of food in there earlier, so she might not necessarily be hungry. Let's go ahead and just show you the whole tank, and you can just watch her swimming around for a while. She's pretty active. All right, let me see some comments here. Hey, Vincent, I do still have the outdoor pond. It's been running all winter, even in that frigid cold weather we had for weeks. The surface was frozen. It was covered in snow, but you could still hear the water running underneath of the ice. So it did run all winter. Oh, you're welcome, Cecil. I think I said hello, Jay. Jay Rock, not sure what you go by. You're welcome, Selena. Good shit. That just sounds good. Hey, Neil. Its real name as a species is a Polypterus. Most people refer to it as a Bashir or biker. Either one is correct. But I refer to this one as the Great Wizard Queequeg. Oh, I've got a shit ton of shrimp, Selena. Arknight gave me some, and they've been breeding like crazy. I had about 50 or 60 in this tank, but I think she's actually a little bit better of a hunter at night than she is during the day, because I've seen her attempt to snag shrimp a million times, but I've never seen her get one. But the population of shrimp in this tank is down to just several at this point. I can count them all. There's so few in there. But I'm hoping it, with them just abundant, I'm sure she was able to eat them fairly easily. But now they're getting more sparse. Maybe they will be able to stay a little, more sparse. And look, you see where that shell is against her side? If you look just above where that shell is, look at that dark spot in her middle. I've noticed that for a while now. I'm assuming it's part of her markings and not like an injury or something, but she definitely has a round dark spot right on her side. It reminds me of the pregnancy spot you see on live bears. Guppy grass will not grow immersed. I've never had guppy grass before. Oh, yeah, I'm still puffing and growing and all that, although I have taken up a new hobby, which is growing my own psychedelic mushrooms, which is amazing. We're supposed to get like a little bit of snow on Monday night into Tuesday, Monday night into Sunday. Monday night into Tuesday, and then on Tuesday we might get a little bit of icing, and then once that's gone, at some point I was looking at the 10-day forecast. I don't remember which day it is, but someday within the next week it's going to be 71 fucking degrees. I cannot wait. And by then we're going to be well into March. At that point, even if we have some colder weather again or whatever, like that, piss off. I don't give a fuck anymore. If we're hitting temperatures in the mid upper 60s and going up into the 70s, unless we have some bizarre weather shift and it gets cold again, I kind of feel like we're coming out of it now. I expect more cold weather, and I don't think it's going to be summer temperatures from now on. But I was out today, and today was supposed to be like the beginning of the cold weather, and it was like 40 degrees out. And when it's been 12 degrees out, I'll take 40 degrees all fucking day long. 40 degrees felt warm compared to what it's been. So I kind of feel like we're through the worst of it, and we're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Cherry Super Beef. Nice. It sounds good. KZ Tropicals, how are you? I got a new vape flavor today, and I'm not really happy with it. Went to 3 different places. The first one was closed. The second place was a shitty place that only has like 2 brands, and I don't like either one of them. And then we had to go over to the big city of Westminster today to do we had to pick up those plants and a couple other things over there. So we swung. We went by the vape shop over there, which is a big vape shop, and they got lots of stuff. And I finally found some blueberry, I've just wanted some blueberry flavored vape for a while now. And it's always, if you can find anything, I tell them I want blueberry, and they say, well, here's some blue raz. That's not blueberry. I want blueberry, not blue raspberry. What about this one? It's blue raspberry and lemon. Is that fucking blueberry? I went like 5 fucking, this one's blue raz, or this one's blue rizzle, or oh geez, I want fucking blueberry. So today I found one, but unfortunately it's the brand is Monster, and they do like a custard monster, and this is blueberry custard. So I'm not a huge fan of the Monster brand, and I'm not a big fan of that custardy flavored with it. but it is blueberry. So it's not terrible, but it's not exactly what I was looking for either. I never tried what you would probably think of as a reef tank. I did try a marine tank, and I still, in fact, have a marine tank playlist. I've got a couple of videos on there that I decided I would keep on there just for the sake of nostalgia. So anybody who wants to look back at a disastrous attempt at keeping a saltwater tank, you can look at my attempt at keeping a saltwater tank. But I bought into the fish store hype of like, oh yeah, you can put that in there. It's a 20-gallon, sure, you can put that. I mean, I had so much stuff in this 20-gallon tank. I literally had a horseshoe crab in a 20-gallon tank, along with fish and a feather duster. I had shrimp. I had all kinds of stuff in this thing, and it was only a 20-gallon tank. And I started out without even having a protein skimmer on it. My mentality was I had done the brackish tank. I got the brackish tank set up for my puffer and everything. And I just started thinking like, well, what is the difference? Like, all I have to do is just add more salt and hey, presto, it's a saltwater tank. And I really was thinking about the saltwater tank as just being a salty version of a freshwater tank. I was vaguely aware that you had to keep the stocking density a little lower. This, of course, was back in my days when I was still concerned about nitrate and everything for the most part. And so I just sort of set up an aquarium with salt water in it with a hang on the back filter. I had no protein skimmer or anything on it. And very quickly I found that I had to have a protein skimmer. And so I went out and got one of them. And I had live rock in it, but I tried one piece of coral eventually just to see if I could get it to take, and it never really did. It just sort of died off. But I mean, it was a disaster. It had algae all over everything. The nitrates were just as high as they are in my, freshwater tanks, or maybe not just as high, but I had a lot of nitrate. Again, it was a very heavily stocked, even for freshwater, in retrospect, knowing what I know now, in retrospect, that would have been heavily stocked for a freshwater 20-gallon tank. Again, I had a horseshoe crab. It was a baby, but it was, its body was that big around, and its tail, well, maybe not that big around, maybe like that. But again, even just that by itself in the 20 probably would have been a lot for a 20. And so again, it just didn't really, work out for me. I also found that I wasn't really interested in it. I quickly realized this isn't a freshwater tank, and I've spent a lot of years developing a way to keep my tanks very low maintenance, very Dan proof. If I forget to turn this on or that on, like, the tank will be fine because I've got redundant systems built in. I build the tanks so that they're partially even self-sustaining. Again, I build my tanks to protect them from myself because I know how I forget stuff, and I got ADHD real hard, and I do stuff like that all the time. So that's a saltwater tank's not for me. Fiddly stuff isn't for me, like bonsai, keeping orchids, stuff that needs, something that I can ignore for a long time and then just give a little water and food to once a month. I can do that. But stuff that needs, fairly high maintenance, you got to give it just the right amount of water 3 times a day. And if you miss one watering, the roots dry out. Like that ain't the kind of thing for me. And that's kind of what a saltwater tank is. You've got to be really on top of making sure the pH is correct and the chemical balance is right and your phosphates are where they need to be. And you got to measure your, and that's just not my thing. I learned quickly on, rather than force myself to keep fish in a way that doesn't really line up with my personality, I get a lot more pleasure out of the hobby by designing my tanks to, complement my personality and gel with my lifestyle rather than sort of forcing me to do something that's not really in my nature. And I've gotten a lot more enjoyment out of the hobby since I gave up on the idea of saltwater. Red-headed turnip, how are you? Next one, an oil twist. No, I've never heard of those. I'm talking about nicotine salts in case you thought I meant like weed vape stuff. I'm talking about just like my regular nicotine vape. Let's see. It's a U moment. What moment did I have that was a U moment, Zini? Well, honestly, if you're saying that the DIY says that you can do that anyway, and I'm guessing you're talking about keeping a saltwater tank, just like a basic freshwater tank with a filter and no protein skimmer and all that, you can, as far as I know. I talked to people before I did it, and everybody agreed that I could do that, although the protein skimmer is, recommended. But in order to do that, I would have had to keep that tank very lightly stocked. I would have had to feed it very gently, that sort of thing. There was no way I could go into cramming fish in there with a crowbar and then not have the protein filter, protein skimmer, and all that kind of stuff. The foam and the nastiness that I got out of that protein skimmer, believe me, it was, it was necessary, and it still wasn't enough to stay on top of the tank, again, just because of the way I was treating it. Knowing what I know now, if I tried it again, could I possibly do better at it? Probably. I didn't have 3 years experience keeping fish when I dove into, no pun intended, the saltwater tank. And again, I went into it without doing any real reading or learning about it. I just kind of got some basic ideas. I used my little bit of experience with freshwater and my very little bit of experience with brackish water, and said, well, again, Dunning-Kruger, very little bit of experience, way high confidence. That's how that works. You get into something, you have very little experience at it, but your confidence is through the roof. That's where I was on my Dunning-Kruger curve. I'm now back up on the other end of the curve, where I'm coming up back towards the, seasoned and well-experienced end, where my confidence is back up, but not disproportionate to my knowledge and experience. In the beginning, your confidence is way disproportionate to your knowledge and experience. And that's where I was when I set up that saltwater tank. So again, if I did one now, could I do better at it? Probably. I'm just not really that interested in it. Yeah, that's what I set up, Pond Puppies. I had the Fowler tank. Well, yeah, it was fish only, except I did have a feather duster. I didn't buy the feather duster. It came in the live rock that I brought home. I just noticed one day that there was a feather duster coming in and out of one of the holes on the rock. So I got that as a freebie. I also got some really scary looking squidgely things that had a lot of legs. I would see occasionally. They came in the live rock as well. I had no idea what they even fucking were. But I tried having, it was some kind of shrimp that I had in there. It was like a big shrimp. Again, I had the horseshoe crab, and I had 2 of the pajama cardinals, those little black and white fish. The first time I ever saw them, our pet co sells saltwater fish, and I saw them in there, and I wanted one immediately. And I saw, they're saltwater fish, and I had vowed to myself, if I ever do saltwater, first of all, it will be because of this fish, and I will get this fish. This will be my first saltwater fish. And it was. I got it. I'd set the tank up, and I had 2 of those in there. I wound up, when I broke the tank down, I gave it to a guy I knew that worked at the Petco, who had a saltwater tank. And he came over and collected up all the live rock. He caught the fish. All the fish were live. I didn't lose any animals in this process, believe it or not. But the horseshoe crab eventually died. But I didn't lose the fish. The feather duster was still alive. And I think I had one other fish in there that I can't remember now. Oh, I do remember. It was one of those fish that's, I don't remember its name. It's like blue in the front and orange in the back, like long and thin, like a blenny or something like that. Not a blenny, like a darter. something like that. You probably can picture the fish I'm talking about if you don't recognize the name. I had one of them in there too. Again, all in a 20-gallon tank. It was that tank right there. It was my the betta tank now. It was even sitting in that very position when I had it as a saltwater tank. So he collected everything up out of there. He left the tank and all the algae and substrate and everything in there. I was hoping he would just take the tank and go, but he didn't. He spent about an hour here collecting everything up. He put everything in packages. He bagged up the fish. He knew what he was doing. He did it like a pro. And just cleaned all the tank out, and he left me the tank and the filter and protein skimmer and everything, and he just took all the animals and live rock. So it all went to a good home eventually, and it was an interesting experiment. But again, I did learn pretty quickly that just wasn't really my thing. Well, that's the other problem, Redhead, is that back then I was more of a fiddler. I wanted to do stuff all the time. It's the same way people, kill their house plants because they want to love them every day. They want to do something with it. It's just sitting there looking at it and not doing shit for a week is difficult sometimes. It's your hobby. It's the thing you want to do. I would come in here every day and do something in my fish tanks. It was through that process that I learned that that's a terrible way of keeping fish tanks. Leaving them alone and letting them, do their own thing is the way you keep a fish tank. And, again, I learned that through this constant fiddling and always doing water changes and always messing with the, cleaning the gravel and vacuuming it out and wiping the glass down and, 3 water changes a week on some of my tanks. And, I was into it when I first got started. And again, I noticed that the tanks that I wasn't as interested in, the ones I tended to neglect more in my mind, always did better than the ones that I maintained every day. And gradually I began stepping back. And the more I stepped back, the better the tanks got. And, gradually I learned to just leave well enough alone most of the time and it'll sort itself out. And so the point being is that was also during the period when I had the saltwater tank. And so likewise, I was in there messing with it all the time. Oh, that's sweet, pond puppies. That would be awesome. Cornish. Oh, that's a bummer. Eugene, hello. Yeah, fish keeping is definitely, well, I don't know. It's an interesting way to think about that for a minute. If we take my 2 hobbies, or we'll call it 3 hobbies, because I like going out in the woods and hiking around, but I also spend a lot of time out in my kayak. That's a hobby that you're intensely involved with while you're doing it. If I'm out in the woods, even if I'm just having a stroll, listening to the bird song, I'm there. I'm physically doing it. Even if I'm sitting on a log, I'm doing it. I'm out in the woods and I'm, enjoying my afternoon or whatever. With the fish keeping hobby, it's always here. Like I can be in here anytime I want. I don't have to necessarily be doing anything, but just being in the room and looking at my fish and, all that kind of stuff. I'm participating in my hobby just by what I'm doing right now. I'm participating in the hobby. So it's a much more low key hobby. Again, some of it may just be looking at your tanks, enjoying the fish. Whereas kayaking is more of a physical activity and that sort of thing. But the kayaking is something I can do when I get the opportunity to do it. I got to make a special trip. Like it's a thing. It's an event. This is just my basement. So it's a hobby. I can come down whenever I want. I can just take a break and sit in here and relax and unwind. So very much more of a low key hobby, but also very much more of a round the clock sort of thing that you can do, put one in your living room and you can just enjoy the fish while you're watching television, was going to say when it goes to commercial, but nobody watches commercials anymore. At least I hope nobody watches commercials anymore. You shouldn't be watching commercials anymore. It's 2026, people. Get with the program. All right, we're going to move you guys to another tank because I want you to watch this for a little while. You always see the God, I don't know why I can never remember these damn names of these fish. I always think of them as my Timu discus or my dollar silver discus. Silver dollars. And if we watch my silver dollars for a few minutes, I know you guys mostly see the tank when everybody's in there feeding and they're actually coming back over to, I think I'm going to feed them again. But give it a few minutes, let them chill out and get back to doing their regular thing. And two of the really big ones were doing that like side-by-side wiggly shimmy thing, which almost looks like spawning or pre-spawning behavior. I've never seen the silver dollars spawn in there. It would be amazing to come in one day and find a whole bunch of little baby silver dollars swimming around. Yeah, I don't think I have any hobbies that I can't do while I'm on mushrooms. Now, if I'm out on my kayak or out in my woods, I need to devote the amount of time necessary to do mushrooms. You know, I need to make sure I'm out there for a good 5 or 6 hours. But I can certainly kayak. I fucking love kayaking on mushrooms. Although I haven't yet kayaked on real mushrooms. I've kayaked on my syrup and the chocolate bars. Again, I still don't know exactly what's going on with that stuff or what that stuff is, but it was a blast. I really enjoyed being out there in the kayak. And I was actually just thinking today that at the rate my mycelium is growing in my latest grow bag, we're looking at a solid month before I even start fruiting it again, probably. So we're going to be into April by the time I have mushrooms again. So my days of just sitting in my dark basement watching Doctor Who on mushrooms again, you know, which was getting really boring. By the time I have mushrooms again, like I'm going to be able to have day trips and go out and do stuff, and the weather's going to be nicer, maybe a day out on the kayak. So that's made me a little happy when I realized that. The spotted ones are maybe from head to tail 5 inches, including the tail. And that would be the biggest of the spotteds. The smallest is maybe 3.5 inches to 4 inches. The shark's probably about 5. And then those big silver dollars are like the size of a fucking tea saucer. High-tech aquariums? No. I do all low-tech. In fact, the lower the tech, the better. I don't know what the right word I'm looking for. I shoot for simplicity. The simpler I can make a tank, the more I like it and the better. And as I progress with the hobby, I've actually begun sort of moving away from even having filters in my tanks, because that's a pain in the ass having to change the filters and whatnot all the time. They're not really necessary. And for what my filters do, it's redundant. My filters don't do anything that my tank doesn't already do, with the exception of that physical mechanical filtration. It does pull little particles and stuff out of the water, but it doesn't make the water any cleaner in the sense of chemically. You know, it's not removing any toxins or anything like that. It's simply just trapping the dirt that swirls around. And my filters, I go so long in between changing them that they're usually clogged and backflowing, and like, so they're not really even trapping any of the dirt anymore by the time I get around to changing them. And so rather than worry about the filter trapping the dirt, just when I do a water change, I can just go around the bottom and just sort of suck the excess loam and stuff like that out of the tank, and I don't have to worry about it. Or in the case with this 40 over here, we tried to look at this a little bit the other night, but I didn't have the light turned on. I do need to get in here and vac some of this out, but if you look down here at, try to see how much you can see of that on my monitor there. Look at all that loam that's built up down there. It's just deep and thick, and it's just all over the bottom of the tank where all these plants are. And you can see it's, you know, it's not hurting that tank at all. That tank doesn't have any kind of filter on it. It's just got a small power head moving a little bit of water around. Well, it's got two small power heads moving a little bit of water around, and an air stone. It doesn't even have a sponge filter at all. Like there's no filtration in that tank in the traditional sense at all, and it's fine. I do probably need to get in there and remove some of that loam just because it's, you know, visibly beginning to look unattractive. But the tank is fine. So again, the filters aren't really a thing I particularly need anymore. Yeah, exactly, Cornish. That's when I began to realize that my filters were redundant. I didn't really need them. When there were several times where I forgot to turn the filter back on. And, the first time might have been a day or two, but at one point there was a tank that I left the filter turned off for 3 months. The filter was running, but I forgot to open the valve and let the water actually flow. So the impeller was just sitting there spinning until the next water change I did, or the next filter change I did. And that's when I realized, like, I had never started it from the last time. I'm going to try to do this without scaring the fish away, but I got that stupid bucket full of water on the floor. So let's see if we can get the camera over here a little bit. I'm going to try to give you a little bit better look at that pleco hanging on that glass back there. I don't know if turning that light on helps or not. Can you see him in there? Let's try doing that and see if you can. There you go. There's a little bit better of a look. So he's over 1 foot long now. Mel. All right, everybody, I'm shedding people. So I'm going to start winding down. Seems like everybody else is. The only thing I really wanted to do tonight was to get that plant put in the tank and just say, hey, chat for a little bit. Again, I tried to go live at 8 at my regular time, but I'll get the camera zoomed out in a minute here. I forgot I got you all zoomed in real tight. I just wanted to get this plant stuck in the tank. That's not where it's going to live permanently, I don't think, but we will. It's in there, so we can start, thinking about what we actually want to do with it at some point. And I might also start looking for a different piece of like plastic tubing or something like that, so I can recreate the same design. I really like the simplicity of this. I don't like that big orange pill bottle look. That really annoys the shit out of me. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, with this tank, I might not even worry about that. I might just go back to not having that. The substrate's so light, I could mix some of that crushed coral in there and nobody would ever really even notice it. So that's probably what I'll wind up doing. Some snake plants. Ooh, that would look nice. Hey, Mike. KZ, if you've got all of your tanks hooked up to the same sump, be really careful doing that and look at the volume of your sump. If something were to go wrong and one of the tank's pumping systems failed, or there was a power outage and suddenly the water began siphoning out of the tank, is that sump going to be able to hold all the water that comes into that, or is your sump going to just start overflowing as all your tanks are siphoning back into it or whatever? So just be wary of that. I always thought if I ever had a sump connected to any one of my tanks, I would put it above the tank as opposed to below it. Yeah, I got carried away with angelfish back in the day when I first had my what we now call the 55. Was once upon a time was my angelfish tank, and I had 8 angelfish in that 155-gallon tank at one time. And that's when I began learning my process of only having 1 angelfish in the tank at a time. Well, I think it's safe to say that the goldfish are going to eat the shit out of those roots. We can already see Wednesday in there munching on them. And I thought these fish looked good when we upgraded from the 40 and moved them into that 60. I thought they looked amazing. With the amount of room they have to swim around in this tank, I'm stoked. I'm so happy with this tank. I've wanted a 75 for a long time, and to get one for free was awesome. And every time somebody would ask me when the goldfish were in the 40, and aren't you going to upgrade? They're looking a little big for that tank. I always was saying, like, yeah, ideally I want to go up to a 75. I just can't afford one. And the only thing that's kind of a bummer is I got that 60 for free, and I was like, well, shit, it's a 60. I'll take it. It's free. And then literally like 2 weeks later, the same guy, the guy that gave me the 60, said he had a friend that had a 75. Do you want a 75? I was like, well, shit. So I've still got that 60 sitting in the other room. Again, if anybody in the Baltimore area wants a 60-gallon tank, I got a stand, hoods, the whole 9 yards. You can have it for free. Just got to come get it. Oh, thank you, Mel. Yeah, that is one of the things I do enjoy about plants is once you don't have to keep buying them. If you're patient, you can buy a piece of Java fern, and eventually you can have Java fern in all the tanks around your house and have so much Java fern you're throwing the shit away. It grows all by itself. It self-reproduces. You get little pups and babies, and we do the same thing in our yard and gardens. We'll buy one plant and then make a bunch of cuttings off of it. And even though they're small, if we do it early enough in the season, you get 5-6 plants out of one of them. Aquarium boss. So, all right, everybody, we're going to start winding down here. Get your last thoughts in and that sort of thing. Check my messages here real quick. All right. 40 months. Getting old. 9 months. I need to catch up. What do I need to catch up with, Mel? All right, everybody. I guess one day I can probably take my diploma down off the wall. Show it to you because it's fancy. Well, you're seeing more. There you go, Baltimore School of Massage. That's actually a very prestigious massage school, believe it or not. But that was my diploma when I became a massage therapist. Come on, God damn it. The fuck? All right. I'll get there in a minute, everybody. Hang on. All right. Criminy. All right, everybody. Look, it's me. Hey. $400 for an aquarium or for a printer. What are you printing? Yeah, the diploma didn't really, amount to anything other than saying I did it. But at the time, I was proud of the achievement, and so I did hang it up. I'm not even sure who framed it for me. I don't think the school gave it to me framed. No, my parents, my mom probably had it framed for me, or possibly my wife. I don't know. But yeah, that was, when did I graduate that school? 2000. Yeah, that was 2002. I think the date ought to be on it. Yeah, 2002, June. So what, 24 years ago? God, that was a long time ago. Oh, well, life goes on. I'm old now. God, that hurts thinking about it like that. 22 years ago. Damn. So, all right, everybody. On that note, I am going to say good night. And for the members, I'll be back Wednesday. And for everybody else, I will, in all likelihood, be back next Friday. But again, you never know. We'll see how I feel come Friday. All right. I don't know if I'm doing this differently or they've changed the way they do the stream. The end stream button used to be like at the bottom of the screen, and I could click on that, and then it would say, are you sure you want to end this? Now the end stream button's like up in the top corner over by the settings and whatnot. So it always takes me a minute to figure out how to sign off. Oh, plant holders. I got you. Not a bad idea. All right, everybody. I will see you guys on Wednesday, or I will see you on Friday. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Good night.